Hello, this is LV Spencer, the Logistics Lead for the Southwest and Rocky Mountain Division. I want to welcome you to today's 15-minute logistics webinar. Our topic today is going to be facilities agreements. I'll be your host. I'm LV Spencer, and on your screen you should see my contact information, and feel free to give me a call anytime that I can be of assistance to you. Here's some of the topics we're going to cover today. The first thing we're going to talk about is the facility agreements, then when to use them, what forms, and how to record them, and then I'm going to end up with a demonstration. So the facility agreements that we're going to be talking about today are those that are used during a response to a disaster. The facilities we use during a disaster are strictly temporary facilities. These are facilities that have either been loaned to us or been donated to us, or we've agreed to lease them for a short period of time during the disaster. Now, today the only facilities we're talking about are the non-shelter facilities. We'll have a webinar on another day that's going to talk about shelter facilities. So the facilities we're talking about today are more like for the headquarters, maybe a warehouse, a fixed feeding site, parking areas, service delivery sites, things of that nature. And these are the facilities that we would be using during gray sky. Now, we want to try to get as many of these facility agreements in place as we can during blue sky, so that we can execute them during gray sky. So the documents I'm going to show you today, we want to use them during blue sky, and so that they're already in place, and we just need to execute them during a gray sky environment. There's a couple of forms that we should always try to use during our using the facility agreements. One is a resource record, a form 6455. I like to have one of those for each one of our facility agreements. It gives us some contact information, plus it gives us a place to record the history of our communications with the landlord during our negotiations, and also when we actually open up the facility. And then we'll go over the facility use agreement itself, and we'll go through that rather quickly. Now, a lot of people have questions: should I keep paper copies? Should I keep electronic copies? Just how should I store these agreements? I recommend you keep the paper copies, because you're going to have the official signed signatures, so the original signatures will be on the paper copies. But you should also scan them, and so that you have electronic copy. Those are a little bit quicker and easier to retrieve and to do a search on. So you should try to do a search on the paper electronic copies. And then I would recommend you keep a list or a roster of them, like in an Excel spreadsheet, so you know what facility agreements are out there, which ones are current, and the different functions that the facilities have agreed to be used for. And then I'm going to wrap up with a demonstration on the exchange, and then also show you some information on the logistics site as well. These are the different things we're going to go over today. I'm going to take you out to the facilities topic hub on the exchange, show you how to get there, and almost all these forms except for one is out there, so you want to get really familiar with the facilities topic hub. I'm going to show you the management toolkit and the management handbook. You want to read those so you can get some more background information on how to locate facilities and how to go about and what's the Red Cross's obligations or commitment regarding these facilities. I'm going to show you a documentation checklist, then we'll show you the use agreement, the agreement instructions, and then we're going to wrap it up with a job aid that I've created. Now, what we're focusing on today is gray sky during a response to a disaster. We're not going to be talking about in a blue sky environment, where we're talking about chapter buildings and regional buildings, the more permanent real estate. We're only talking about during the gray sky. A lot of these agreements you want to do during the blue sky, but we're not going to be talking about the blue sky facilities. Now we're going to take you out to the exchange and show you the facilities topic hubs. To get to the topic hub, we're first going to click on our services, and then we're going to click on disaster cycle services, and then the next click is on the DCS capabilities, and then underneath there is logistics, and now we're down to facilities. So that's how you drill down to the topic hub for facilities. A quicker way if you want to try it is if you just click on up in the search box and put in facilities. It won't take you to the topic hub, but it's going to show you a lot of the documents that you'd be using for facilities. So this topic hub page is going to tell a little bit about the facilities, and up here it's going to show you the different resources that are involved in facilities. So if you click on each one of those, it's going to take you to those documents. And down under the items tagged facilities are the main documents that you're going to be using. One of them is the facility open and closing checklist. We're not going to talk about that today. That's going to be on another webinar. The shelter facility survey, again, that's on another webinar. And the shelter facility survey accessibility instructions. And then there's the disaster logistics facilities handbook. And that's one of the documents I wanted to show you. If you click on it, it's going to take you to the handbook, and over here on the left hand side you can see the table of contents, the different things that are covered in here. So it's going to tell you about contract facilities, assessing facilities, repairing them, accident reporting and returning them, and things like that. So you want to be familiar with this handbook. Now I'm going to click back to get back to the topic hub. On the next page is the toolkit, and this is where you can find out some more information about facilities. And again, here on the left hand side is the table of contents. Talks about closing a facility, opening them, special considerations, and things like that. Again, another document you should become familiar with. And then there's the facility use agreement, and we'll show you that in a moment, and the facility use agreement itself. Before we get to those, there's one document I want to show you before, and that's the facilities documentation checklist. This gives you a listing of what should be in a facilities folder and what should be covered. So it's pretty self-explanatory, as you've got the DR number, the site name, the site address, and then if you just go down here, it gives you just a basic checklist to make sure that you have everything in that folder. So the shelter facilities are, strictly for the shelters, but on a non-shelter, you're going to want this other information: the opening, closing checklist, the agreement, the resource records, and then you may want to put some other information in there, like if you have copies of invoices, copies of floor plans, maybe copies of maps, anything else that you would want to put in that folder. So that's the facilities documentation checklist, just to make sure you have all the documentation that you need on a facility. Now I'm going to go back and show you the facility use agreement instructions. Okay, and this is just a really brief instructions on how to use the facility use agreement. And so one of the things that we want to make sure is that we use this form, that we don't use a different form that has to be approved by the Office of the General Counsel, and it talks a little bit about insurance and things like that. So you want to get a little bit familiar with this form as well. I'm going to click on the back arrow to get back to where we were. Now let's get into the facility use agreement. Now I'd like to take you and show you the facility use agreement. I already have one opened up here, so let me pull it up for us. Here it is. It's just a fillable form, and some of the information you can put on here is a DR number, which hopefully we won't have a DR number for doing this during a blue sky environment. And then we want to put in a facility name, and this is typically the type of facility that it is. This is going to be a staging area, fixed feeding site, and things of that nature. And you may not have that name until you actually have the DR and how you're actually going to utilize that facility. Going on down here, you want to put in the legal name and point of contact and the legal address. Now, these are all the legals. These are not the actual physical address of the facility, but it may be the landlord's address and where legal documents should be submitted to. And the legal name needs to be the official name of the organization or the facility, and because in some cases the companies may be doing business as and using a different name. The next section is the Red Cross, and this again is for legal notifications. So this is usually like the regional name, where should any legal documents be sent to, and who's the point of contact, and things. If the landlord or the provider of the facility wants to give a legal notice to the Red Cross, they should send the documents to this location, and also with copies going to the General Counsel and also to disaster operations. So these are all for legal purposes. Now, the next section is the building address. So the facility or the parking lot or whatever facility we're using, this is the physical address of the facility or the location, which again may be the same as the legal address, or it may be a completely different address. And then the next section is the description of the premises. You're going to provide a brief description of the facility, describing the building, describing the parking lot, describing the fixed feeding site, and this is just a very brief description. Now we're going to go down into the terms and conditions, and some people get really nervous when they see terms and conditions, because then they start thinking, well, this is a legal document and that there's obligations and requirements in here. But you'll notice as you read through here, there is no obligations upon the facility owner. All the obligations appear to be on the American Red Cross. So it's not like we're going to go in and take over the facility. The facility owner still has the options of declining at the time of the disaster, of not allowing the Red Cross to use the facility. In no way are they obligated to allow us to use their facility. It's just a general agreement that yes, if the facility is available and the Red Cross needs it, that they will allow us to use it. It's a little bit more than a handshake, but again, it's not any obligation upon the landlord or the facility owner. Some of the things that we're going to start off with is the use of the premises. How are we going to use it? And you would initial these only those lines that you are going to be using. For like if you're going to use this as an operations center, both the owner and the Red Cross would initial their appropriate lines. They may initial all of them, or they may not initial maybe just one line. But if you're going to use it as an operations center, such as a headquarters, maybe a warehouse, or if you're going to use it to storage supplies, you want to initial the appropriate block. The next one is the term. The terms of this begin the date of the last signature blow and ends 30 days after written notice by either party. So the landlord owner can cancel this agreement at any time. The next is the fees, and here the landlord is going to indicate if there's going to be a charge. Under paragraph A is basically the owners agreeing that there is no charge, any fee in recognition of the service provided to the community, and so they can initial that. But if there is a fee that has to be paid, then in B we're going to put that in, or it may be zero for the right to use and occupy the facility. In some cases, we may be in a position where we have to pay a fee. And then there's one about the conduct of the American Red Cross on the site, and there's conditions of the premises before and after. And it's important that we do the opening inspection so we know what the condition of the facility is at the beginning, and then we want to do a closing inspection so the Red Cross is going to be obligated to pay for any damages while we are occupying the facility. And then there's the reimbursement. We're going to reimburse for any damages. We're also going to reimburse for any out-of-the-pocket operational cost. So we're going to pay for the water, the gas, electricity, and the waste disposal during the time that the Red Cross is in the facility. And hopefully in another webinar we'll show you how you can actually calculate those different figures. Down in paragraph 7 is the insurance. Right now this says $1 million. There's some rumors around there that that's supposed to be $5 million. I've talked with resource management, and the number that's on the document should be $1 million as it is now. Now, they did say that some facilities are requiring it to be higher than that, and that's fine. And we're been authorized to go up to $5 million, and so if the owner requires a $5 million commercial general liability and automobile liability, then you have the authority to line through that and change it to $5 million. But we don't do that automatically. We do it based on the request of the property owner. Then there's a indemnification clause. You want to read that, and the owner's right to revoke for clause, and some other legal things, and legal notices, governing law, which are standard boilerplate information. Now, we need to get the owner's signatures and also the American Red Cross signatures, and there's always some controversy over who from the American Red Cross can sign this. They have to be an authorized representative of the American Red Cross, and it should be that person who's actually dealing with the facility owner and getting the signatures. It should be somebody that's familiar with the facility, has been out with the facility, and has done so. So it needs to be somebody that's close to actually doing the facility agreement. So that's the facility agreement that I wanted to show you. There's a couple of other things I want to show you, and that one of them is the logistics job aid that I created for facility invoices and review. During a DRO, facilities gets involved in reviewing and approving a lot of invoices and purchases because of the requirement to provide different supplies and services to support the facility. So we created this little job aid for people to use and to go through to make sure that they're doing the right process. So if you'd like to have a copy of this, just send me an email and I will be glad to send you a copy of this job aid on reviewing the invoices. So that pretty well wraps us up for today. I've tried to show you the different documents you'd use in doing a facilities agreement. You want to do these during a blue sky environment so you can execute them during a gray sky. That concludes today's webinar. Just check your email inboxes for future webinars. If you are not part of the invite list already, please send me a request and I'll be happy to send you invites for future webinars. Thank you for joining me today and have a great day.